The information within is based on my own memories, comparative research with other people who have had similar or the same experiences in this regard, as well as a thorough divination confirmation with my core self. As I always do with complex subject matters, I must preface this presentation with some thought-provoking information and revelations. You must watch and closely listen to this presentation to get the full gist of why we exist and what happens once the physical life as we perceive it to be is over. And as always, take only what resonates and leave the rest behind. Let me say from the record and from the start, I said it all throughout my unique brand of ministry, is that what we're not getting and what we have not been taught is that we are multi-dimensional. Just as we have an entire system in place for us to animate and be present and to breathe and be anchored into this world through this vessel, there's a multi-layer of us, or I like to call it an energetic stream that exists, that is participating or is a part of this. Allow me to further clarify. We are a system unto ourselves of extremely complex and magnificent organisms, atoms, and energy particles that modern science has yet to totally comprehend. But progress in these areas are being made. Soon enough, the scientific community will be able to show and prove that we really do exist all across time, dimension, and space, and just like existence itself, we will always exist in some form or another. In other words, we cannot not exist. Now, people say that there's no way we can know what happens after death because no one has died and come back, but that's not true. People have near-death experiences all the time, meaning they were clinically listed as dead. No pulse, no heartbeat, no brainwave activity for a prolonged period. And these people have come back and have shared experiences beyond the veil and could give eyewitness testimony of things that was going on in the room when there was no brain activity, no life in the body. There are countless stories of people of all ages and walks of life who were either listed as dead or flatlined, but survived to tell very similar accounts of being very alive and present in what we call a near-death experience. One of the most prolific and unusual cases in history belongs to a gentleman by the name of Daniel Brinkley. Daniel Brinkley was struck by lightning on September 17, 1975 while using a telephone at his home in Aiken, South Carolina. He said that he was clinically dead for 28 minutes. During these 28 minutes, Brinkley said he experienced many characteristic details of a near-death experience as well as certain unique ones. His account includes an out-of-body experience with extensive observations of physical surroundings, passing through a tunnel, a high-speed and detailed life review, and an encounter with beings who showed him visions of the future and discussed with him his life mission. Brinkley said he had a strong reluctance to return to his physical body, but he was sent back to fulfill a mission. In May 1989, Brinkley had heart failure and went to the East Cooper Hospital in Charleston, South Carolina, where he had a second near-death experience. Brinkley said he had another life review that was taken by a being to a place with pleasant sounds and smells. On September 17, 1997, Brinkley had brain surgery to remove a subdural hematoma and had a third near-death experience. In The Secrets of the Light, he explained that he traveled to a blue-gray place that was like purgatory, In this place, he said he saw soldiers, martyrs, and those unable to reach a level of forgiveness. Today, Damien Brinkley is a hospice volunteer to help others to embrace the death and dying process. A multi-dimensional being who is cut off from one layer still exists, but is now perceiving from a different angle or different perspective. We have all died again and again and again and again, and we have all been born again and again and again and again. We all experience semi-deaths during the sleep process, and some of us have actually died in our sleep, but was brought back by various beings and or ancestors. Memories of these ordeals are blocked from the conscious mind, ego, personality, and none will be the wiser. But again, some of us do recall or remember. Most of us have forgotten this. Prior to coming into this world, this dense, condensed reality is amnesia. A lot of our consciousness has been fragmented. So we forget most. We remember more, ironically, when we are babies and children, but we express those memories in a very innocent way. And when we do speak of, like a lot of children do, talking about being someone else or having a life and having another mommy somewhere else and another daddy somewhere else, we scoff it off as them having an overactive imagination. From the mouths of babes, children, much of what I share can be verified to a shocking and undeniable degree. Children speaking of existing before has become so commonplace that even acclaimed actor Blair Underwood was inspired to write a book entitled Before I Got Here in 2005. The book was inspired by Blair's own son, who had innocently spoke of existing and being a non-human force before meeting his Earth parents. The book was met with some harsh criticism, mostly from those who have long-held religious beliefs. I shared an experience before where a friend of mine who identifies as a Christian, where her 4-year-old son, they were at a gravesite putting a relative in the ground, and the 4-year-old innocently said, "Mommy, I remember when they put me in the ground," and the mother, she scoffed it off. So ironically, we do remember more of existing before our present incarnation, but a lot happens to cause us to shut off what memories we do consciously have. Let me ask you a question. Do you remember being born? If your answer is no, then how can you be absolutely certain that the greater part of you didn't have memories and experiences that precedes your birth? Stop and think. Now, nothing is ever really forgotten. What happens is, in between different lives, is that our memories are stored in the soul matrix, and the history, everything that we've done, is stored in a place that many have come to call the Akashic Records. So nothing is ever forgotten. The memories are transferred more into a feeling, an inner knowing, when we move in between different lifetimes. Now that's kind of going into another conversation, but I have to at least make that point to bring this all home, to show that life is a cycle. Life, birth, death, as we perceive it, this is all in a cycle. The circle of life is why I came up with the wordplay of sphere it. Sphere it. In our purest state and form, we are spheres or pockets of mind consciousness and awareness, experiencing the Almighty's knowledge from many angles, possibilities, and situations respectfully needed or required to 1, atone, and 2, to gain wisdom. The ultimate goal is to integrate,
perfect our core essences and earn the right to forever live in a perfect light body in harmony with the all.
To say that we have not died, so there's no way for us to know that there is a quote-unquote afterlife. It's that those of us who have had full conscious, full-blown out-of-body or astral projection experiences, be they spontaneous or be they happen by will. When one has these experiences, it is like a knowing. Again, if we are in a state of amnesia or our consciousness is fragmented, at some point we will begin to regain some memory or some knowing. So what astral projection or having an out-of-body experience, a full-blown one, might I add, does, it helps us to remember, hey, you know what? I have done this before. You just know.
To get knowledge or knowledge from hearsay or a third party is one thing, but to gain knowledge or knowledge backed with experience, that equals wisdom. You see, that's the evolution of the soul, our essence. This is in part what physical life and having experiences from many different perspectives is all about, gaining wisdom.
The vessel, this body, yes, it is a part of what I am now, and what I will get from the experience will forever be a part of my soul matrix, but this body is not all that I am. You know this when you have these experiences, so you do not even have to die to know this stuff. This is how I know and have learned so much. When you remember one thing, it eventually leads to a recollection of other things, and then it snowballs. Then you start seeing pieces of the bigger picture. It starts getting bigger and bigger, and your consciousness starts to expand, and you get more and more into a state of knowing rather than beliefs.
Now we'll get into the meat of what this presentation is really about.
What happens when we die? If everything goes smoothly, there's a process. Consciousness withdraws, and this is where most people observe their physical body. If there isn't a trauma involved where all of it is forced out and the person is not prepared. But if there isn't trauma involved, usually the consciousness separates from the body, or if there is a situation where we are perceiving death as imminent, the consciousness separates and observes the situation first and foremost, and the body is in autopilot. When the body is dead, so to speak, the life force, the astral body, the energy body, all of those things leave, okay? Then what happens is we go to the astral realm, where so many things can happen and so many things can play out.
When the cord to the physical body is forever severed, life as you knew it begins closing off and ending. The emotional body, consciousness, and mind will go or be magnetized to the layer of the astral planes that fits and matches each vibratory layer of the departed. The astral realm is a plane where everything one can think of, imagine, or has ever thought of and imagined can be found. It is like a bridge between all other unseen worlds, and it is quite layered. All conscious beings travel there at some point, usually by default during physical sleep, but most may not retain the memory of their experiences, and if they do remember, they may believe or assume that they are having a very real-like dream. Let me give you just a few examples. For instance, those of us with religious or certain beliefs will go to their respective plane and play out what their consciousness in life has agreed to experience. Plane of beliefs. This is how and why people who have had near-death experiences have reported seeing and experiencing exactly what they believe in. On the contrary, those who never even thought that they could live without a body will go to a plane with other like minds, many who still don't think or believe that they are dead, believe it or not. Then there's the Purgatory Realm. As mentioned in the previous blurb that I had read earlier by Damien Brinkley, this realm is a very gray and gloomy realm. It is a place where beings and people who are fearful, guilty, confused, severely detached, sorrowful, terrified, and severely depressed will be magnetized to. This realm is also a place where one is forced to face their shadow selves, something that many of us find very difficult to do. And please don't worry about those who pass on in this state. They will eventually get the help that they need from highly advanced brothers and sisters who are very good at helping the lost, scared, and confused in the astral realm. Another example would be with people who pass away in a hospice or hospital, usually awaken in the astral realm in a hospital-like setting with very loving beings who take on the role and form of doctors and nurses. And then there is a realm of absolute, meaning no beliefs as well. And this is the realm where advanced beings who are here to fulfill a higher mission or to be a master teacher will go when their work is done. This realm is in place for the knowing. This is probably the realm that Damien Brinkley was magnetized to when he had his first 2 near-death experiences. One reason why we go to the astral realm, also known as the underworld, is because our consciousness can be fragile, and a sudden and drastic shift in all that we've come to believe, accept, and hold on to in our already state of amnesia and fragmentation could overwhelm our psyche and can cause it to shatter even more. To be more concise, if enlightenment, knowing of one's true self, or expansion of consciousness did not occur before the end of physical life, the death transitional process will not and does not instantly cause this state of knowing for us. Physical death, as we perceive it, does not bring instantaneous awareness or enlightenment. Therefore, the respective and familiar space must be allowed for our temporal ego, personality, desires, fears, expectations, and beliefs to play out or burn off before the soul's next transitional phase into the spirit world can occur. So the astral realm allows us to have that expression, that space. One could even say that the astral realm in this regard is a purification process. Reintegrating our soul's matrix of experiences with our greater self is a very delicate process, especially for younger souls. Now I would like to touch on what is this concept that many call limbo. This is a state when the transition out of the physical density doesn't go so well. When a soul is in limbo, they are caught and stuck between the earthly and non-physical realm. This state is often caused by a quick and sudden death, usually traumatic. The soul is often very confused and believe that they are physically alive. They can't figure out why the people who are still on earth seem to be ignoring them. They are often oblivious to the energies of the non-physical beings who are right there to help them. Some beings roam the earth plane for quite a while before they realize what has happened to them. Once they realize what has happened, some will move forward with offered assistance and some may not. Those who refuse to move forward or don't want to move forward are usually in fear, or they have some kind of strong attachment to something on earth. Although help is always there for these souls, no one can force them or make them move forward. To do so will be a violation of their free will and could again shatter their consciousness and greatly disrupt their evolution. Yes, these souls can be and are the phantom spirits and ghosts that people with sight have been seeing all throughout time and memorial. The good news is that in this cycle, Limbo souls are quite rare.
Now, some of us are meted or greeted by loved ones. It can be relatives that we've known in this life, or it can be relatives that we had in or we created in other lifetimes. It gets really, really layered and complex. Again, we are multidimensional. That means you had or we have children, aunts, uncles, cousins, grandparents, and so on and so forth for many, 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 many lifetimes. We never lose our connection with them. Even though we may get a different form or different body, our energy signature remains the same. The love and the connection that we make with one another, that stays the same.
We are all loved by distant ancestors and beings who are beyond our five sensory perception. This is why I often say that you are loved beyond measure, because this is an absolute fact. Speaking of ancestors, they play a key role in our transition from this world into the astral and so on. It is normal for our ancestors to project their energy spheres to us when we are in transition. The first person usually seen is a dearly departed that we are most consciously aware of from our present physical life. Again, this is done to help us to transition out in the most safest and seamless way possible. Our ancestors may or may not hang around during our clearing or play out processes on the astral, but you can be sure that once we come to our full sense of the greater self, they will all be waiting on the spirit realm for us to rejoin them.
The astral realm is also where some of us who have made contracts or covenants with these lower astral beings or beings on the astral realm, we have to go through them, and whatever dealings may have happened with that, there may be some negotiations that has to happen there before that being can go on to the spirit world or the ethereal world.
It is important that I add that there are deceptive entities and beings on the lower astral who have and are pretending to be God or gods, saviors, deities, and or messiahs in order to feed off of our energies and to gain the trust and favor of those of us who are not yet strong in our power and discernment. The consequences of such choices must be experienced and played out, not as a form of punishment, but for the soul to learn and master discernment and intuition. Alright, moving along. Once we are done on the astral realms, the astral body is shedded and it stays behind to be recycled, and our spirit is finally released to go on to the spirit realm or ethereal realm. It is by this time we are more open to the way things are and not what we believe them to be. You get it?
We go to the ethereal or spirit world and we merge our consciousness with our ethereal form or our perfect light or soul body. It is here where we have our life review, and when we have our life review, we not only see everything that we've done that has affected others and how it has affected the world from our perspective. But we see and feel it, everything that we've done that has affected others from their perspective. So it's almost like we get a panoramic view of everything that we've created and the impact that we had on other people, be it positive, negative, or neutral.
Now y'all know this point must be reiterated. Just imagine seeing and feeling the impact that your every thought, deed, intent, action, lie, truth, and so on has caused and created to and for everything and everyone, be it consciously or not. It all comes back in our bird's eye life review. Again, it's not there for punishment. It is there for us to learn, to observe, and to ultimately perfect the self, perfect the soul.
And it is here where we decide what it is that we're going to do to further our evolution. Some of us reach the phase of perfection and have and just stay in our perfect light bodies and help with the evolution of other beings, or being a master or teacher from the other realms in whatever way we want. And some of us come back down in and go through the physical life, or having a physical life or something adjacent to it over again until we balance karmic streams, master whatever it is that we have not yet mastered, and so on. That's why I say it's very, very layered, very, very complex, and so many different angles to which I could explain this. But again, I don't want this video to be too long. But when it's all said and done, we have to be mindful of what we say and what we do to one another, because no one gets away with anything. Be careful what kind of contracts and agreements we make with people on this plane and on the astral plane, because it's all going to come back when this life, the person you believe you are, or the person we pretend or are for this experience, we are going to have to face all of the things that we are doing now when we go to the next life. There really is no death. Life is continuous.